Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be working on our dahlias. This is where we're going to be starting our little workstation. All of these crates on the right and on the left are full of dahlia tubers. I did grab a couple of our clumps out just to see how they look, to test them for viability. And not all of them will look like this, but pretty good. Like this one isn't good. You can see it's all dried and shriveled up, but these look just absolutely perfect. So our goal is to pull them all out and divide them down to where they look more like this right here. This is one of the tubers that Finhill Dahlias sent out. And the parts of the tuber here you're looking for are the body, the neck, and a growth point or an eye. And you can see this one has already started to push some growth. This is just such a great example of what your tuber should look like. Now you don't have to divide them down to one. In fact, some of mine I'm just gonna leave in clumps of maybe 2, 3, possibly 4, depending on the size of them, just because I want this process to be as easy as possible. Now we garden in a zone 6, Eastern Oregon high desert. Year before last, I tried leaving most of my tubers in the ground. I think dahlias are a zone 8, so we put a silage tarp down over the top of the soil to prevent excess moisture from reaching the tubers, and then we layered straw, grass, leaves, like a big thick layer of them. And we had about a 60% return, and every winter is a little bit different. I know some people who did the very same thing in our area this last winter, and they had a much higher rate of return. So I don't know, I just didn't want to take the risk this last year. So we dug all of our dahlias and stored them in the root cellar, which stays like between 35 and 45 roughly, and the humidity stays at a nice level. So most of the time we have pretty good luck keeping them in there. But I didn't check on these during the winter. I mean, I took a peek inside maybe twice inside one of the crates. So I don't know really what we're gonna find here, but I think we're gonna have plenty to plant our area. We did eliminate 2 of our dahlia rows. So instead of 7 rows that are 60 feet long, we're doing 5, which is still plenty of room. I mean, I think we can do about 290 dahlias out there, which is still probably too many. But can you have too many? I don't know. So we store ours in bulb crates right here. Let's get into a shade. So there's nice airflow here. We use burlap sacks and vermiculite, which we do use from year to year. So we save all of that. In fact, that's why the tarp is down, so we can catch my mess this morning and save it. But let's take a look here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this one still has some moisture, but see, like this one, broken, not viable. But there are so many good ones. This is a Colorado classic right here. My goodness. That's a beast clump right there. I usually do this part of the project during the winter months when we're slower. I'll take a crate or 2 out of the root cellar, divide them, let them dry, pack them back up and put them back in. But it's such a process to do that. And I want to handle these things the least amount of times as possible. Otherwise, I feel like it becomes such a huge project. And if we were selling them and such, that would probably make more of a difference, and I would probably put more of an effort in. But because we grow them for our enjoyment really and to give away, I just need the projects to be efficient as possible. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. Like, look at this. You can see the body, the little itty bitty neck, and then there's an eye right above it, right there. Okay, so I'm going to show you a close-up of me dividing one of these clumps, and we have several videos in the past of me doing this exact same project. So if you want to see it more, maybe refer to one of those, because I want to speed through this project because it is supposed to get quite warm and I don't want to leave the tubers out for longer than I have to. Okay, so to divide, I use one of these 2 tools right here. I've got my Felco 2s, and then I also have my Felco knife that has a curved blade. I use this all the time. So what we were going to do is we want to make sure we've got an eye here. So we've got the body, the neck that the string's tied to, and then we've got a growth point right here. Same with this one, body, neck, growth point. I'm going to probably just leave these together. You know what? We're going to use Felcos for this. Like that. That's perfect, and we can do this even if we want. So you can see the small one I just showed you with the growth point, and this one it's a little bit bigger, and every one of them will look different. We've got the same basic concept here, in that we've got the body, the neck, and then a place for the growth point here. You do want to make sure that these dry out, and I think sitting outside while I do this project, they will probably sufficiently dry out. I'm going to go ahead and label this as a Melody Dora. And what we're left with here, I don't really like the look of. Like, this one's not viable. It's all dried, desiccated. This one is kind of punctured. It's got a good, I don't know. I mean, I think we could cut this off and somebody could try with this one right here, but I don't think we'll plant that one because that one, it looks like, was damaged at one time, but it still feels really good. There's a growth point right there. This one will still grow. So that's what we're going to be doing right here for the next little bit. So far we've got 7 Melody Doras that look awesome. And I have pulled 2 clumps out that have question marks. I don't think I'm going to keep any of our unidentified tubers. So those are going to all go in a crate to be given away. Here we go. It's huge. All right, guys, it's been a few hours, but we made it. We made it through all of the crates. Dahlias are just the worst. It's crazy that they're worth planting though. They're worth planting because they're so beautiful out in the garden, but this process is not my favorite. I will admit that right now. Any of you who actually like this process, I don't know, maybe you need to come to my house next time we need to do it. But we've got a gator full here. This crate is full of the miscellaneous varieties, and or like there's a couple of huge clumps of Colorado Classic, which I could have divided, but I do have one bag with 77 divisions of that variety. So I decided not to waste my time on that, and I might just give those away. And then like Sonic Bloom, there's 24, Nijinsky only 3, Tory Bloomquist only have 1. There was a variety that I don't even know, pastel pink and yellow pom-pom. I have 26 of those, and I enjoyed those a lot last year, and so on and so forth. But because I've got them counted, I can go through and make myself a list, and I can decide how many of each variety I want to plant out in the garden. Because, you know, some that I only have 1 or 3 or 5 of, I'll probably want to plant all of them out there. But like Colorado Classic, I don't want to have 77 of those. So it's nice to know how many of each one of those I have, and then I can start with, you know, the ones I have the fewest of, and then work my way up to the ones I have the most of. Yeah, we have plenty to fill up the garden. I did run into quite a number that were bad. Just saved out a few to show you. So like tubers that looked otherwise, like felt really good, nice and firm, but I'd cut them open and they look like this. Almost look like they got too cold because they're not, well, this little one's desiccated, but this big one looks perfect. Like it looks perfectly, you know, I don't know, it's just the right consistency, but the inside looked like that. And then like this one here, see how this tuber looks perfect? I cut into its neighbor and it's halfway kind of rotted. Let me grab my Felcos, cut this one open. Yeah, see, it has that cruising down the center, which makes me a little nervous about the ones I even still have, because how many of the ones that look great have a little bit of that damage inside? Who knows? I was pretty careful though with what I saved, so I'm hoping that most of them are viable. And of course it took longer than I thought it was going to, so I'm just going to back the gator right into the studio where it can stay in kind of an air-conditioned room for the evening, and then tomorrow morning we can get out and get them planted. So see you tomorrow morning. It is a new day and it's been quite a breezy one. In fact, Erin set me up with this huge microphone with this puffy thing on it. Hopefully that helps reduce the wind noise. We're standing out here in front of the dahlia area. I wanted to walk through our setup before we start planting. So we've gone from 7 rows down to 5 this year, and I might even take it down further than that eventually. I don't even think we need 5 full rows. We could go down to maybe 3, maybe 4, I don't know. Every year we might just refine the process. In fact, another thing we've done this year differently, one, we have painted the T-posts, which looks so much better black than the traditional green with the white top. See the difference there? We left the last few so I could show you what we use to paint. This is the satin all surface paint and primer in the color black. Anyway, it does a really good job at making things just look nice and tidy, and it sort of makes things disappear, especially once the plants start to grow. You won't see the black post, but I always could see the white popping out because of the high contrast. And that's a completely unnecessary step, but I do think it elevates things a bit. The rows are also spaced out more. I mean, that's why we eliminated a few so that we could have wider walking paths. So this year we have 6 feet between rather than 4, and 6 might not even be enough. We'll see. It's just a trial year. We also ran 2 rows of T-posts per planting row. That way we can run our twine on both sides, have the dahlias come up in between. I think they're going to be so much easier to contain that way. Usually by the end of the season, they're sort of an overgrown, flopped over mess. Still beautiful, but hard to traverse the rows. So we're trying to figure out a good balance and figure out what works best for the space. So I will paint those T-posts before we plant. I also need to use my auger to make the holes. This is the auger right here, and we dig our holes about every 12 inches. You can go 18 to 24 inches if you want, because the dahlia plants do get quite large. And this is just for demonstration purposes, but we usually plant the tubers with the growth point facing up, which if you look at this one, we've got growth points right here. So they go in on their side about 4 inches deep. Just like that, and then we cover them over. This soil has already been treated with Biotone starter fertilizer, so we're good to go there. And then we are gonna top dress with compost instead of working it into the soil this time around. So it's all been prepared that way. It should go pretty quickly this morning. And then our drip tape here, you'll see it has emitter holes every 12 inches. I don't like to use this one, but it's the only one we had at the moment. So as soon as we get our drip tape that has the holes every 6 inches, we will swap this out. It just provides better coverage and we don't have to run the zone as long. That's why I prefer that one. I also water them in initially. I know some people say to plant them and wait till you see green growth, but I always water them in the beginning. I might not have to water them very much because of the rain we got last night. And then I water extremely sparingly until I start to see green growth. So that's pretty much the process we go through. What I'm gonna do is dig the holes. I'm gonna save the T-post painting for a more still time of day. So we'll just do that later. But I'll dig the rest of the holes and then we will just plant and get this done. Let's get after it. Thought I'd stop really quick just to talk about planting depth one more time, because it looks like I'm not planting them as deep as I just said I was going to at about 4 inches, because we are coming in with compost top dress, which will bring that soil level up a bit. But I have seen guides say to plant them anywhere between 2 and 6 inches. So I kind of go right in between and just don't fuss about it too much if it's not exact. Anyway, thought it was worth mentioning before we continue on. So you can see with this one right here, I'm about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches deep, and then we'll put the layer of compost over the top. Done, but I need to run to the greenhouse and grab a tray of dahlias that I started from seed. So we'll actually have little plants in 24 of these spots. But this row's done, this row, and this row. And then I've got them all planted up until, well, until there's 24 holes left. About right here. There's a couple I have laying on top of the soil surface because this, I forgot to separate a clump. Like there was just a huge clump in one of my bags. So I separated it on the spot and I'm just letting those separations dry out. And I figured if they're out here exposed, yeah, that already feels dry. They would dry out by the time I was done planting everything. So I'll put those in last. Okay, to the greenhouse. Here they are. Need to groom them up a little bit. Dang. Okay, so these are a variety called Petite Florets, and they look really good. Let me pull one out. Oh yeah, look at that. They're already forming up little tubers. How cute is that? So I'm just gonna pop one of these in each one of the holes and then we will be done. Now it's all done. And I realized as I was getting these plants out of the tray, I actually had 2 varieties in there. So there's Petite Florets and Shooting Stars. And hopefully they don't resent me too much coming from a nice protected greenhouse out into this breeze, but it has calmed down quite a lot. And here is my incredibly low effort plant identification system right here. The effort is not worth it for identifying these. If we were growing to sell them, it would matter, but in our case, we're growing them not for that. So the only ones that do have identification are the ones that Dahlias sent out. So you can see the little white tags right down there in the ground, and then our 2 varieties that we got out of our plant tray. And the rest of them, I just wrote down the variety. So this is row 1 there on the left. I wrote down the order in which I planted them and how many of each of them I planted. So if I'm desperate to find the variety or find out what variety it is, I can refer to this. I used the back of a Greenstock Garden envelope it's the only paper I could find in the barn. And most of these varieties I've been growing for several years, so most of them I can identify by just looking at them. And we have still a whole crate full of dahlias, and these right here and those right there that I will be giving to friends and family. And now that this space is pretty much all done with planting, minus just one little section at the end of that last row, we can mulch it and it's gonna look so, so nice. And we don't add the guide string until we start seeing growth. It's just easier to walk around when we're weeding in here and such when there's not string in the way. Anyway, guys, that is it for our dahlias for now. It is such a process, and like I said, I like to complain about the process because it's honestly like planting bulbs in the ground and messing with dahlia tubers. it's kind of just one of the bottom rung garden chores for me, but it just pays off so much in the kind of late summer time when they're really going for it into the fall. They last quite a long time. We've got a long growing season here, so we really get a lot of production out of the dahlias. Anyway, we will be giving you updates along the way. I probably will come along later on and give them a little bit of fertilizer after their first dose, and then we may or may not pinch them. Some years I do, some years I don't. Still get a ton of blooms from them. So anything that we do out here with them, we'll bring you along. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.